Fred in Alaska. Thanks for joining me today. We have a guest that I'll let him introduce himself, and we will we'll carry on from there.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Name's Mike. I'm originally from the Norton Sound region. Got a story about disappearance. I'm in my early 50s now, but this happened when I was around 17 or 18. In Norton Sound region of Alaska. I knew something. It was to be a 3-day trip. We managed to secure our cabin 3 days, and it was only like a little 8 by 10 with 2 buddies of mine. There's another hunting party about 7 miles down the road at another cabin. These guys were all partying, and we didn't find out till the next day that one of my classmates ended up missing. He went outside to use the restroom. Those days, like October, September, it gets extremely dark up north. While those guys were partying, they were wondering what happened to the other guy because he stepped out to leave himself. He wasn't. No more than a couple hours, they realized he was still gone. They went out with flashlights. Back then, flashlights were extremely cheap. Even the mag lights couldn't be too far. So we had to wait till the next morning when daylight broke to go look for him. All they found was his ball cap upside down. Got on the radios and started calling for help. Same night, while they were 7 miles away partying, we were in our little cabin. My friend was laying on the single bed, which was closer to the fireplace, the wood stove. I was on the top bunk to his left, and my other friend was underneath. I had a little 30-30 that I left in the truck that I had 34 Magnum on. The guy below me had 30-06. The guy to our right had his 300 Win Mag. That night, we heard from the guy on the single bed something on the outside. It's just a shell of a cabin. It does have insulation, but it's extremely thin, probably about inch and a half thick. I heard something scratching, started scratching on the side of the area where the wood stove was. It started scratching and going towards the guy that's on the single bunk. He goes over and he grabs his 300 and he's pointing at the wall. The guy with the 30-06 turns around. He's right-handed, but he shouldered it up to his left shoulder. And the fire. I rolled over, had my 44 mag ready to fire in case anything happened. The scraping on the outside of the wall turned the corner right where the guy on the single bunk was. He slides off his bunk because it wasn't too high off the ground, but he slides off as quiet as you can. And he keeps going, it's right here, using hand gestures and signals. And where both of us guys are on the bunk, bunker shaking her head. Yeah, we can hear it, you know. We're kind of trying to listen. And then it comes, the scraping of the outside of the wall gets to where our bunk is, where our heads are, like right in between. The guy with the 300 Win Mag slides all the way off of the bunk and is sitting on his rear end and is aiming at the wall. The guy on the bottom bunk of me slides down the same way the guy on the single bunk did, as quiet as he can. All I did was roll over, and I followed the sound with my pistol. We happened to have our door locked with a 2x6 crossing over the door, because there was absolutely no way to lock it, so we just slammed the 2x6 across the door. It gets us to where our feet were on the bunk, and it stops right at the corner, and it had completely circled all the way around the cabin. And you can hear what sounded like I don't know, like a soft big pot or something, or a pan, and I hit the door and try to push its way in, and the guys are thinking it's a bear, it's gotta be a bear, because around this time the bears weren't hibernating yet. And we stayed up all night. We only had one candle lit and the fire burning, and it was the only light we had. We didn't bother turning on any flashlights or headlamps. And this cabin had absolutely no windows, so we couldn't look out. The door was a solid 2-inch oak door that was specifically made for this cabin. So we waited and we stayed up until about maybe like 4:30 that morning. We had to get up around 6 to go start making our way to go help locate the classmate of mine that went missing.
So
we had
when
jumped out of bed.
Right, not to interrupt you. So when that scratching sound started, did it strike you as bear behavior?
No, I've never heard of a bear in all my lifetime of hunting, scratching a continuous scratch all the way around the cabin. You know, like walking on all threes and scratching a side of a building. I've never heard anything like that before.
And was the scratching the only sound that you were hearing outside of what sounded like the pan initially hitting the door?
Around the foundation of the cabin is nothing but tundra, and it's extremely soft. So, you know, if you put weight on it, your weight will go down. If you get your weight off, it'll like track back up.
Yeah, kind of spongy.
So,
yeah.
It was pretty quiet, so we didn't really hear any like footsteps or anything around the cabin. But when we went out to check that following morning, the sun didn't come up until about 8:30. But that's when we turned on all of our flashlights, headlamps, and everything, and we checked around the cabin. We couldn't tell what was making the steps or anything, because all of that just popped back up. The trail that we were on in the truck was a man-made road, so they had made the road going into the cabin, dug into the foundation, and that's how they built the cabin. They had stuck to 2x12s and all that stuff and all that, and they built up the foundation like that until they got to the flooring, and that's how they built the cabin.
Oh, okay,
So
gotcha.
it could be level.
Now, that scratch sound that you heard, was it like a nail scratching, like a wood nail, a 16-penny nail, or was it, what was that sound like? Was it real loud, or was it faint, or?
It was pretty loud. When we got outside, we could tell that it actually dug into the paneling of the side of the building. Parts of it, the bigger parts of it, were at the corners to where the scratching took off part of the corners when it was turning the corners.
Right, like a little gouge?
But the thing is, it was only one, like, scratching. Not like 4 nails or anything, but like a finger or a nail.
Gotcha. Do you remember?
Since the building.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I know there's a delay in the phone, but do you remember how high off the ground the scratch was?
The cabin's about 6 feet tall. It was probably about 4.5 feet up. It was closer to my bunk than the 2 guys on the ground. So it was probably level to my bunk. It was about 4.5 feet up.
Okay.
Like, because the floor bunks were probably about a foot off the ground. And they left enough room to where the guy on the bottom bunk can sit up.
Right. Now, was there a difference in the height from the floor of the cabin on the inside versus the ground outside? Was it just 2 by 12 kind of raised off the ground?
There's it's probably about a 8-inch difference from the bunker to the floor on the inside.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to interrupt. I was just trying to understand, and get a clearer picture of the scratching and, potentially what it looked like and whatnot. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's just a small cabin. The table that's in there, it's type of you can fold to the wall or back up if you're going to eat. It's only got 2 chairs on it. I mean, it's a really extremely small cabin. It's just a square cabin.
Gotcha.
With a 5-gallon stove, that's what took up a lot of the room, that in the bunk. So you had very limited space. There's an outhouse about 40 feet away. But, that was, the walls on that thing were extremely thin, maybe about 1.5 to 2 inches thick with foam on the inside, not regular insulation, but, foam.
Yeah, foam board
like a styrofoam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plywood is probably half-inch thick plywood all the way around. Inside was all plywood. We didn't like using the gas lanterns because, we didn't really like the smell of them. So we didn't bother turning those on. We would just use candles and the light from the wood stove.
Yeah, those kerosene lamps can just leave a smell on you, and if you're going hunting, you don't want any foreign smells like that on you,
Yeah, and the guy that was on the single bunk was checking out the scratch mark. He's like, hey, you guys gotta check this out. Because once completely forgot about the scratch. Because we only had an hour and a half of sleep, 2 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
That's when the call came in over the radio and that they need help. I'm looking for the other guy, so...
So as far as the missing...
We started checking out the scratch mark.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
When we started checking out the scratch mark, you can see where it started. From where the stove is on the inside, it's about 1.5 feet from the chimney going up, the flue going up and out. It's 1.5 feet away from each side of the wall. So we estimated probably about 2 feet from where the flue started is where the scratching started.
Gotcha.
And there's a few parts on there where the guy in the single bunk, where his feet would have been closest to the stove, it started going like in a around to the corner. That's where we first saw the wood, the end pieces kind of chipped away, and the stretch mark just continued going across where our bunks were, and right where it stopped. That's when we heard the, like, I don't know, like, I'd say like a frying pan with leather on it, like hitting the outside of the door. And it clicked once in, but couldn't open it.
Was it being pushed with a lot of, was it being pushed on with a lot of force, or was it a single thump?
It like popping your hand on the door and just trying to push it open. So we had that 2x6 across the door, so it really couldn't move it. I wouldn't know how to, this was like over 30 years ago, but yeah, you can tell that there was force behind it, but it couldn't open the door. So that following morning we get in the truck, and we're about ready to make our 2.5 mile back down to the main road and go 7 miles to the other camp. The guy that was below me was sitting shotgun. I was sitting in the middle while the guy in the single bunk was our driver. We're about a 1/4 mile away from the main road. I forgot to tell you about this because it didn't dawn on me from the last time we talked for that hour. The guy that was in the bunk below me sitting shotgun turned over to his right and thought he saw a bear crossing the road on all fours. But this thing, whatever it was, its rear end was higher up than what a grizzly bear would be. You know, grizzly bumps it around. This thing had a higher arc in its rear end, and its back was sloping down, and it just ran across the street into a brush. So we took our left and went and started helping look for our classmate. We couldn't tell what it was because the sun still wasn't up yet. By the time we hit the road, it was about 7:30 in the morning. And then around 8:30 is when the sun would start popping up. He only saw it because of the light from the moon shining down. Those times up there, moose hunting season, it's always no clouds, but extremely cold. And so when he saw it, the driver's like, yeah, that's just the bear that was missing last night. Just left it at that. But I kept asking, how come the ass end of it was higher than a bear's rear end? And that's when the guy in the shotgun, yeah, why is that? I don't know, the driver saying. Maybe it was trying to, relieve itself or something while it's crossing the road. And we didn't argue too much about it. We just went to go look for a classmate. Search and rescue came out there. We searched for up until the first snowfall, which was about 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later.
And there was the missing classmate. There was no trace found except for a hat.
Yeah, his ball cap was upside down. I noticed when we got there, they left the hat right where it was because they were trying to figure out which direction he went to. I had seen some leaves that were turned upside down. I've been doing ever since I was a kid. Like stuff. And in high school, we'd take survival classes and all that. There's a few leaves that were upside down. You take a look around, the leaves are showing the way they grow naturally, but these ones were upside down. thinking he may have gone northwest, or whatever had taken him had gone north, where there was absolutely no blood or anything at the scene. He was intoxicated. They don't know if he got up and he walked away, but we all did a big perimeter trip of 12 miles in the circumference on four-wheelers, on foot, and to this day he's still never been found.
Yeah, and you would think if it was a bear that got him, let's say, okay? Bears don't drag someone away 12 miles without leaving blood or any sign of a struggle. You know what I mean? Bears get to a comfortable place where they feel comfortable and, cache it and sit on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the weird thing is, I received a friend request from his brother a couple of years ago on Facebook, and I actually thought it was him because they look a lot alike. They're just a year and a half difference between them. And I accepted his friend request, and I was like, "Hey man, where have you been all these years?" Messengering him and all that stuff, and he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "We were looking for you a little over 30 years ago when we were out doing something." He's like, "Dude, that wasn't me. That was my brother." And it's like, oh, finally dawned on me it was his younger brother.
Yeah, that would be really strange to go 30 years and then all of a sudden, wait, your friend requested me on Facebook? Yeah, that would definitely be a Twilight Zone type thing,
Because, I was talking to their youngest brother about 10 years ago, and I completely forgot about his older brother, the one that sent me the friend request. I completely forgot about him because I haven't seen him in years. And then out of the blue, I get a friend request, and it's like, "Where you been, man?" It's like, we searched for you for telepersonal and that's when he texted back and said, "That was my brother, man, not me."
Yeah, that would definitely be trippy. So I had a question. Like when that, just as the bump or the scratch started, that got you guys' attention, what did that make you feel like? What did it like immediately spark something, just instant adrenaline?
Yeah, adrenaline. The first instinct was to grab our weapons and follow the sound. The way the guy that was on the single bunk, the way he grabbed his 300 Win Mag and slid off the bunk, kind of like a snake just sliding off, trying to be all quiet. And that's when the dude already had, the guy underneath me had his 30-06 already to his left shoulder. He's not left-handed. And when they started grabbing weapons, I reached over to I was laying on my left side, so my face is facing the wall, and not see the firelight because I need to sleep in darkness. So I was rolled over. So on my left side, my pistol was hanging on the wall where there was a nail, my belt holster, and all that. Slid up my 44, rolled over to my right side, and that's when I started watching the guy in the single bunk slide off. And as I was looking down to see the guy below me, I already saw the 30-06 barrel and towards the wall and following the sound. And by the time that's where our heads were at, there in the right before the corner, that's when he slid off the bunk, like the guy in the single bunk slid off as quietly as he did. All I did was just kept my 7.5-inch barrel pointed for both my hands, and those guys are sitting on the floor, their rear ends down on the elbows on the knees, aiming at the door in case I had to fire. I knew if we had to fire, we wouldn't have been able to hear anything. Because when we spoke in that little place, I kind of had to whisper because you can hear your echoes. Like your voice would bounce off the walls, so you didn't have to be too loud. Plus, it's really small, 6x8.
Yeah.
Kind of like a shelter cabin.
Right,
but,
survival shelter cabin.
Yeah. But it was privately owned, so the driver spoke to the owner of it, and we had gotten permission to stay there for 3 days as long as we kept it clean and all that, and replenish the wood. All that was awesome. Right.
So what I was getting at is, was it an ominous kind of feel, and it immediately sparked that adrenaline?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, at first the guy in the single bunk is like, yeah, it's only one of the guys messing with us. It's like, where the closest neighbor from us is 7 miles away, the closest neighbor to them is another 7 miles away, so we were the furthest ones out. We were like at the very ass end of the hunting area, because that was the only cabin available. All the other ones were privatized, and all the other cabins were filled with the owners.
Gotcha.
It was an elderly lady who owned the cabin that we were in, so she hadn't gone there in years. We went out a couple weeks before that and fixed it up because we had to do some repair work on the roofing and one side of the wall. That would have been on our bunk side, bunk bed side, and to repair that. Ladies since passed, but she was kind enough to leave that cabin to my friend's mom in her will, and for the next 8 years after that, we were using that cabin every moose hunting season.
Gotcha. So the missing classmate, so all you heard was that they were partying a bit and he had to go out and use the restroom, and they didn't check on him for 2 hours?
Yeah, I think the longest when they realized was probably an hour and 50 minutes, maybe 2 hours when they realized that he hadn't come back in yet. There was like 7 or 8 people in their cabin, to like a 24 by 12 or something like that, so it can hold quite a few people. I think there were like 6 to 8 people in that hunting crew.
Oh, gotcha. So there was a pretty large crowd noise going on. Especially,
they started partying before they got out there.
Oh, okay.
They were going to party the first night. They were going to party the first night, do some serious hunting for the next couple of weeks. Because you get a 2-week window to get your quota of moose.
Yeah, you definitely got to move on that.
Illegal, but
right?
Yeah. Road hunting's illegal. You can't shoot a moose from the road, but I know a few guys that used to do it all the time, and they ended up getting pissed off at them and telling them, hey, you guys got to give an animal a chance. Get off your ass and go track it down out in the wilderness like we're doing.
Yeah.
We're sticklers like that, yeah.
Yeah, I used to, back when spotlighting was legal, I still couldn't participate. It just didn't, there was no hunt to it. Yeah, there was no hunt to it. There was
Exactly.
I need to spot and stalk myself. I don't know if it's the Indian in me, but it's a little more satisfying to outwit it, flank it, and get close enough to one shot, one kill. It's a little more satisfying, at least for me,
Yeah, I'm friendly. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to end the recording here. I want to thank you, Mike, for sharing that experience with us. And again, you have no confirmation it was Harry Man, but just the circumstances alone are just kind of suspect, because bears don't walk on three legs just to leave a single scratch, you know, and just real strange.
Like we were talking, you know, if my classmate had gotten picked up by a bear, you know, there would have been at least some type of ripped clothing or something, or blood, or, you know, would have left the trail, but there was absolutely nothing there except his ball cap upside down.
Yeah, and a bear isn't one to think, oh, I better cover my tracks and not make it bloody here. They don't know about forensics. They don't give a shit about that, you know? They're trying to eat.
Yeah.
And most of the time, bears, when people are being attacked, people scream bloody murder for the most part. You know?
Yeah, they didn't even... They were, from everything I gathered, they were playing cards, drinking games. They didn't have any music on, you know, and they're not screaming and yelling or anything like that. They weren't being loud. They would have been able to hear him if a bear had gotten to him, you know.
Yeah, because bears growl pretty damn loud when they're attacking. They're just not stealth predators, you know. I mean, they make noise and grunts and just all sorts of stuff when they're excited and, you know, got onto a critter.
Yeah.
Man.
And to this day, they still don't know what happened to him. They don't know which way he went. I mean, most of that tundra up here in the Norton Sound region is extremely spongy, and, you know, if you can sink in up to your waist if you step on the wrong spot.
Yeah, and you guys searched a 12-mile radius, you said?
Yeah, it took us 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I think, to do the full 12. They had helicopters up and Coast Guard and...
Yeah, I just don't see a bear dragging someone beyond 12 miles to feed. It just doesn't, for it to have been a bear, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, a few of the guys took their four-wheelers up and a little further out, but they ran into a pack of wolves and scared them off, turned around, came back, and that's all that they saw, but that was like 24 miles away from their campsite.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's, man, it's unfortunate, you know. I mean, God bless the missing person, that's for sure, because there's so many that go missing under strange circumstances, unexplainable, no trace, you know. It's just
exactly. Yeah.
Very unfortunate, man. You know, and what I find real unfortunate is how sometimes there's no critical thinking by people. They'll just make the assumption, must have been a bear, even though none of the signs or evidence even point to a bear. You know, it's like an easy cop-out almost, you know?
Yeah, when the guy sitting shot them, when he pointed that out, why we had just missed it, because we were about 20 feet away from the main road when he mentioned, oh, there's something crossing the road. But saw the rear end part going into the brush off the side of the road, and that's what I caught, and that's why I kept asking the driver, then why is the accent higher than that? And the passenger's like, yeah, why is that?
Yeah, because bears' rear ends usually sag downwards a little bit, you know? They're not jacked up higher than the front.
Yeah. The way it was angled, too. You can, like, say if you see a little kid, you know, their rump's going to be higher and their back's going to be angled. That's exactly what it looked like.
Gotcha. All right, go ahead and stand.
Where I was sitting.
Right. All right, well, hey, Mike, thanks again for sharing. I'm going to end the recording here, but stay on the phone here, and we'll talk a little more off camera. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and we will catch you on the next one. So we're coming down from Hatcher Pass here, where I just recorded that interview. Just wanted to give you guys kind of a twilight look at the mountains here. Around the corner over that way is Archangel, I've filmed over there. There was an encounter over there, and Gold Mint is over there. Anyway, just coming down Hatcher Pass here, there's a avalanche slide. I wanted to show you guys where an avalanche came through here. So in Alaska, when it says avalanche warning, they ain't bullshitting. You know, they they post those signs for a reason. And yeah, it's definitely something to pay attention to up here if you're ever visiting in the winter time or any of that. Just really take the signs serious, because they ain't bullshitting. And this is a relatively small one from what I've seen over the years. Let's see here. High beams don't light it up any better. Hold on, it's coming up around the corner here. And this area here has avalanches every single year. I mean, every single year. Here we go, coming up on it. It's kind of hard to get the perspective on camera exactly how tall that is. That's at least, hold on a second here, and get up next to it a little better. That's about 20 foot or so. And then you can see the tracks across the way there where they're pushing it off to kind of clear the road. But yeah, it came down from up there. But it's just so beautiful at twilight. I wanted to share with you guys as I was making my way back down, trying to stay safe because it was melting and nice and thawed out earlier, and now it's 26 degrees, so everything's turned to ice now. But we'll catch you guys on the next one.